What's up? This is Jean-Claude with Detailed Designs Auto Spa. Today I'm going to share with you a few techniques that I've been using through the years for taping off a car before you do paint correction. So I've got Raul behind the camera right now. He's my director today. This morning he was working on one side of this Mercedes-Benz, what is this thing? A C63S. And I went ahead and prepped off one side and I got thinking about it. Man, this may be some good stuff for some of our subscribers on YouTube. So hopefully you enjoy this. I'm going to go through the same kind of protocol, I suppose, when I do it myself and when I train my staff. And hopefully you'll be able to steal something away from this, make it your own. There's more than one way to put tape on a car and protect the surface, but you know, hopefully these will help you out. So let's get right to it and learn how to make taping off a car way too complicated. I personally like to use 1-inch tape, and then we have a 1/4-inch tape. The 1/4-inch tape can be used for fine little edges on, say, it's a spot where you can't remove the trim. Of course, we could remove this piece of trim, but the purpose of the video is not how to remove trim. The purpose of the video is how are we going to protect surfaces that otherwise you can't practically remove. So the first thing I'd like to cover is the direction of an overlap. If you're using really wide tape, this may not be necessary, but with wider tape you typically have more waste, and it can also be more time consuming to manage it as you're installing the tape. So when we're doing paint correction, our goal is to work on one panel until it's to the point where it's done, where we don't have to touch it again unless we're coating it, waxing it, sealing it, whatever we're going to do. We may do a final wipe up in case there's no doubt going to be dust on it, maybe even some polish sling, but that's going to get cleaned off. But we don't want to correct paint on a panel once we've moved to the next panel. So that means that when, let's say we're done with the hood, let's say the hood couldn't be open. Of course the hood can be open, but let's say it couldn't be. And we're done with it, and now we're working on the fender here. So what we would do is want to make sure we have enough coverage so that when we're working this edge, so that we don't start going back over this and causing additional work or having a negative impact on how the paint looks on what we've completed. So we're going to make sure we have the coverage. When you're dealing with curvy sections, again, more narrow tape is going to be easier to manage than wider tape. So what we do is we will create an overlap. Now you can overlap this direction where, let's say, that was folded all the way over, and then we create another overlap about through here, and now we have nice wide tape with minimal waste, minimal overlap, but it's easier to manage, easier to remove. The problem is when you overlap this direction, as it is here, this went on first and then this section went on second. If the machine hits over it, it can cause this edge to peel, which can expose paint, and it will expose the pad to the adhesive on the underside, which adhesive on your correcting pad is not what anybody wants. So we alleviate that by putting our tape down on the outside first. Use your better judgment in about how close you go, and then place your other section of tape right on top. And now what you have is you've got an edge you more work with than against. Obviously the pad's coming off and going back on, but in my experience, if it's going to peel if it's layered like this versus this. You're going to get better results with that. How do you wrap a curved edge? A lot of people have problems with curved edges. I'm going to close the hood so I can show you this a little better, and I can manipulate the tape a little better. So my preference is the fewer strips of tape I have to use, that means I've got my game on with the application. That means I'm efficient with how I apply it. It saves me time on the front side. And then when I go to pull it off, it typically will come off in less sections. So So how you do it is, it depends on if it's an inside radius or an outside radius. And when I talk about outside radius, I'm talking about the door here. So this would probably be a better example. This is an inside radius, and this is an outside radius. When it is the outside radius, you're going to keep the outside edge. We're going to attempt to do all of this in basically one section. I keep it on the tape roll, and what I do is I worry about just one edge, the outside edge, and I let the inside edge lay where it will. Got a little wide there. I'm trying to keep this where you can see it on camera. So I'm focusing on, you see how I'm just, whoops. This is what happens when you have to worry about the angle in which you show something off. Start over. So hopefully this will work. Just like so. And let's see if we can't make this all happen in one section. All right, you see what we did here is the inside edge, I left it, I'll say floating, I left it lifted. Now what I can do is just press it over. Just like that right meow. All right, now I'm gonna open the hood and we're gonna finish this off. Gonna sneak it under here. And essentially it's the same thing. You could, if it's a really tight radius, you could run it straight and then start another section. If you do that, my advice is you run that tape further out so you don't have the end of the tape in an exposed area like this. So let's say the tape is through there and then, oh, well, I tore it or something messed up here. So instead of leaving this edge exposed to the machine, I would run it like this, where I have a finer edge, a machine cut edge, that's going to stand less of a chance of getting hung up on the machine. Yeah, this is totally OCD. This is probably way over the top for most people, way more than they feel compelled to do. But if you do this enough, you don't even think about it. You just do these things and you will reap the reward of removing the tape, and it goes way quicker. Your installation of the tape is way quicker, and you end up with just point blank better results because your panels are well protected. So then I'm going to roll it in. Let's act like I did a super good job of rolling this in. For the sake of time, it's not quite that relevant. So now we have an edge that's very well protected. It's unlikely that we're going to be catching the edge of the tape. Yeah, we do have these little super fine suspensions underneath the folds in the tape. But you'd really have to be grossly negligent to catch it on that and peel it up, because they're super fine little edges versus a, you know, what is this? This is probably 4 or 5 feet straight of having an exposed edge. You're going to peel it up. Now, if you do it right, this is a sharp edge, so it may actually tear. But be sensitive to the direction that you lay everything to. So if you had to overlap not just this direction, but if you overlapped this direction or this direction, then the side you start pulling from is going to dictate if you can pull it all up in one shot or if you're going to be pulling off a bunch of little pieces. In this case, there's 2 pieces of tape. They're overlapping, so as long as I grab this underside tape, it should behave fairly well. I may get a little tear on the very edge. but I'm going to be peeling it this way as I go, not this way, because it's probably going to tear. If I peel it this way, this little fine edge is going to tear. But if I peel it this way, kind of like that, then hopefully it's going to behave. Let's see. Yeah, instead of trying to explain with my hands, I could have just shown you. But this is the direction. And when you do this on every single panel, it adds up to saving a bunch of time. And anyways, if you take pictures of your work when you're taping, you know, a really good looking taping job just looks nice too. Doesn't look like trash. That's pretty much it. Like I said, probably way over the top for most people and unnecessary for most, but as I was going over this with Raul, I was thinking, well, maybe there's somebody that might enjoy, you know, seeing how we tape up. But if you use that technique with edging the tape, you can wrap pretty much any radius and not have to have a bazillion little strips to give you that coverage. Because when you use a bunch of little pieces of tape, if you're really working into that corner, your pad may touch it. And if it does, it's probably going to peel it back. It's probably going to make a mess. You may end up getting polish or compound or something else onto a rubber or plastic surface. You could cause damage. And then you've got more to clean up. If you're gooping stuff in there, just like the fewer pieces of tape you can use, the better you're going to do. So hopefully this helps you. Feel free to leave questions, comments, complaints, whatever, in the comment section below. Feel free to subscribe and see you around.